Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Very good evening. First of all, those who are celebrating Ramadan, Eid Mubarak, and I hope you guys are enjoying at least during this break. Right. So I'll keep it to a short session today. I will not go for 3 hours. I might go for 2 hours. That's all. Okay. So we'll quickly catch up what we have discussed the other day, and then we'll move on. Right. So let me open CostX. I hope everyone has joined in, but others will join in as we progress. Um, the other day we discussed, we just started measuring from CostX. We started measuring PCC, plain poured concrete. In other words, what we are learning is basically measuring an area, isn't it? Right. So let me open this one. Um, which one we have? Yes, Muscat Hotel, I think. Yeah. This is something else I have done. I will delete this. Right. So this is what we have discussed, and this is what we have measured the other day. Right. So what we have done is basically we have uploaded the drawing through drawings, add drawings. And this is where you can add the drawings, and once you have added the drawing, you want to measure something. So the protocol is in CostX. Of course, you need to introduce something called dimension groups, right? So if you want to measure PCC, it's almost like your BOQ item or the item that you are going to measure from CostX. Having said that, you need to understand the fact that when we go through the lessons or the lectures, you will understand how important it is to plan your taking off. Now we are still in 2D measurements, right? How to measure or how to plan your 2D measurement. Actually, that is equally important in manual method also, right? When you use your Excel, using AutoCAD or PDF, right? Still, you need to plan your measurements very carefully because otherwise you might make mistakes. Plus, you might not be fast, right? In order to get faster outcome, right, you need to plan your measurements accordingly. So that's what we are going to understand here. So there'll be some quantity surveying tips also when we learn about CostX here, right? Especially those who are not quantity surveys will understand some of the measurement rules. Plus, those who are quantity surveys will understand how quickly we can measure from CostX without measuring all the parameters or all the things, right? We will have to measure certain elements, then we can derive the other elements or other quantities from what we have measured. For example, you don't have to measure the formwork here. I'll show you how, right? But we'll measure the concrete, right? You don't have to measure waterproofing here separately because you can derive your waterproofing from the measured quantities. I'll show you those what do you call relationships, right? Maybe not today because we'll be focusing on measuring let's say concrete elements today. Eventually what you are measuring is basically an area. Okay. So that is what we learn, and we'll try and build up what we call as measurement. Okay, we'll generate a 3D from our measurement. In other words, okay, it's not. Oh, we are not doing 2D, 3D measurements here. Uh, don't misunderstand the thing. What we are trying to do is we are trying to develop a measurement visualization or measurement view 3D view of the measurements. Okay, as we progress, though it is a 2D exercise. Right, so let's take a quick catch up what we have done the other day. So when you click on this, you can see now. I'll turn off the video for clarity. Now, when you click on this, you can see everything is selected, right? The other day we discussed how to measure. Let's say if you don't want, let's say you have mistakenly measured something, uh, how do you undo it, in other words, right? Now you can understand when you click on this dimension group, we call it dimension group, 100 millimeter thick PCC, right? When you click, you can see the link or the visualization on what we have measured, right? And if you take your mouse closer to those objects, sorry, I have not shared the video, sorry, screen, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is what we have discussed the other day. When you click on this, right, so what you have selected is this, and then when you select your dimension under the drawings, right, you will see all these are highlighted. That means you have measured all these things, right? And then you can change the colors, as I said before. You can change the colors, and when you take your cursor now closer to any of the objects, now you can see there are parameters given. So there's a specific name, UJ002. It's a group concrete 100 millimeter thick. That's a folder structure. You can see concrete, right? Under concrete 100 millimeter PCC. Count 1, right? Length 6.8 meters. You see length is, did you measure length? No, you didn't measure length. You measured the area of the PCC outer line, and it gives us length. Okay, and also the height. Height 0.1. Yes, we have specified 0.1 because the thickness of the PCC was 100 millimeter, if you can remember from these drawings, standard drawings. Right, you can see it is thickness was 100 because there's a schedule here, right? Yeah, here thickness was 100, right? From the general details, general details, you'll get PCC as 100, right? So thickness, so we have used that. That is correct. We have defined that 0.1. And then you can see area is 2.89 square meters. Of course, that we have measured. That is the blue line, right? We have measured. And then the volume, of course, that is what we are getting. So did we like calculate volume? No, we didn't calculate volume. We have specified the thickness, and also we have measured the area. So CostX will look after the calculation within the measurements. Okay, you need to properly define the parameters. That's all. Now let's say you have mistakenly measured this one. So how do you identify and delete this? Let's say you have mistakenly done this. So how do you do that now? Let's say this is not to be 100 millimeter. This is 50 millimeter. So how do you do that? One is, of course, you bring your cursor here, right click and delete dimension. Dimension, delete selected dimension. From that, you can delete this. That means you have over measured something that shouldn't have been measured. So you can just delete it. Can we delete one of the thing? Okay, how do you do that? Okay, you bring your cursor here, then you can see this box containing certain information will appear. So that is an indication that you can right click on that and say delete dimension. So when you say delete dimension, it comes with delete selected dimensions or delete all dimension. When you delete all the dimension, everything will go for 6, right? You need to measure everything again because you can't do once you delete it, that is it. Okay, so don't use or don't select this delete all dimensions. You have to select delete selected dimension. Let us select it. Select. Okay, and say okay. Now you can see what happens. Okay, I have selected another one. Fine. So I have selected F7. Now you can see that is unselected, in other words. Right. Now you can see the quantity also change 47 to 40 cubic meters. That means I have deleted this. Fine, and I don't see anything now. When I take my cursor here, I don't see anything. Right. That is a one method. If you want, you can delete right by right clicking, right, and then select delete selected dimension. Okay, that is if you want to make a mistake. Sorry, if you want to say correct a certain mistake, that's how you do, right? And now you do again. Now you measure. Now you measure. Can you follow me? Now you are going to measure this. If you want to measure now, you have to go to dimensions, right? And you have to make sure that you keep your mouse on this. You have to select this one, and then you can either select point or line, right? Like last time what we did. I will show you a quick method later. I'm not giving you everything together, right? I'll give you some tricks. And enter. When you select the line mode, you can select 3 corners if it is a straight edge, and then you can hit the enter button. It will be automatically selected. Right now, I'll show you another area, another thing that you can use. Now, you go to this dimensions tab here, next to dimension group. If you want to see the breakdown of these 48 cubic meters, right? If you want to see the breakdown of these 48 cubic meters, this is where you can click. You can click the dimensions and you see the breakdown. Now you click one, you can see. So this you can see there's a UJ number, UJ0020. So it is picked up by the system or CostX. We didn't define anything. You can see that UJ20 is appearing here. And if you select UJ11, don't ask me why it is 11 and why it is 1. Okay, now it is 1 to 20. So it's a random item selected by or given by a random number given by CostX itself, right? Starting from 1 to 2, 1 to 2 and 3 and so on. It goes up to 20. That means there will be sometimes 20 items. That could be the reason, yes. And you can see each one, you know the quantity. So here is the summary. If you want to see the breakdown, you can see the dimension group. You come to the dimensions tab here next to it. Now, if you want to select, you can select. Now you can check each one. You can see it's highlighted in blue. Right? Can you quickly follow me? Can you quickly delete one and add back like what I did? And then you come to dimensions tab and just click on these items and see the corresponding PCC. Right, just click on that, then I will tell you what to do next. So that is a breakdown in other words of this 48 cubic meters. Right, if you want to see each one, That is how you select, right? Now, if you want to delete anything, let's say you have mistakenly measured this one. So what you do is you again delete dimension. You right click and delete dimension. Right click and delete dimension the same way that we have done the other way, right? You can double click and okay, that's a different thing. Um, when you double click, you see the dimensions properties that we have defined when we created at the very beginning. So there's no point of double clicking here. So the best thing is right click and delete dimension, and you can just delete this. Okay, let us delete the same thing like what we did last time, F7. Yes, that was that. Okay, this one here, F7. F7 is 20. So let's go and delete the last one again. Yeah, this one. And right click and delete. And can you delete this? Right click. Remember, delete dimension, not delete all dimensions. Yeah, delete. Now you get back to 40, right? Using dimensions, can you delete one of the dimensions and see whether your quantity is being changed? And then once you are comfortable with that, you can add them back. If you want to add them back, of course, you have to go back to dimensions and keep your cursor here, right? And then you have to use line mode or point mode. Right, we are back to 48. So delete one of the items from here, dimensions, and then add it back. Please drop a message when you are done. Drop me a message once you are happy with that. Good. Drop me a message. If someone is struggling, let me know. I don't want anyone to leave behind me. Very good. Right. So that is how you measure an area. Actually, PCC is an area, but we have defined the thickness. So that is why you get your volume in cubic meters. Right? When you define your dimension group, you define it to be in volume. That's why you get your answer in volume, though you are measuring an area. If you double click on this, you will understand how what we have defined here. So when we first created the dimension group, so we get dimension group properties menu, and you define the name and folder, and you define display default display is volume. Okay, that's what you see here. Default display is what you see here, cubic meters. Okay, and then default multiply I will explain later. Default height is 0.1, and whatever the color you want, you can select. Negative dimension, I will explain you later. Okay, there are so many things to explain later, but I'm not putting everything together because you will get confused. Right, so that is the PCC. So next move on to now. Okay, what do you have to measure now? Okay, we have measured the PCC here, correct? We have measured the PCC here. Right, now we are ready to measure uh, the footings. We are ready to measure the footings. So then, so what is your method then? If you are ready to measure footings, you have to create another dimension group called footings, correct? Okay, let us create another dimension group called footings. We are going to measure the footings or the concrete volume of the footings. Right, so dimension, add dimension. Right, just watch me what you are doing, what I'm doing, and then you follow up with what I'm doing. Okay. Name, what do you want to measure? Let's say footing, correct? You want to measure footing. Right? You want to measure footing, but now I'm going to do a small thing here. I'll let you know why I'm doing this. Um, I have how many footings here? I have F1 to F8. I have F1 to F8, 8 number of footings and different thicknesses. You can see F1 is that's PC dimension. You can see 2500, 2700 and 500 millimeter thick. You can see here. Some are combined footings. Some are combined footings. Those parameters are given in the table, right? So if it is a single footing, still parameters are given. You can see this is the footing dimension, right? 100 millimeter less, 100 millimeter less from this side, and the thicknesses are given. You are very familiar with these kind of details as quantity surveys. So these are these three columns. If you take RC dimensions, right? I'm referring to PCC details in as SAD 5903. If you can't open, just open that drawing. I'll go back. Drawings and BOQs, right? That is the folder. In Muscat Hotel subfolder, you have general detail. Now, structural details. In the structural detail PDF, you will find here SAD 5900 PCC details. So that is the one I have opened here. And the footings dimensions are given here and the thicknesses. For example, F1 is 500 millimeter thick, F2 is 600 millimeter thick. Now why I will tell you why I'm measuring this way. I'll be measuring F1, F2 separately. Otherwise, I can measure everything together. But I will tell you why I'm measuring this one because the column height will be changed. So when you measure the stub column here, this part here, depending on the footing thickness, this height of this column will change. Therefore, in order to measure these columns on different thicknesses of the footings, I'll measure footings separately and also columns on certain footings. I will come to that in a minute. So I will measure the footings here. Okay. So that's why I said planning would be very important. So I'll measure footing, right? I'll say folder is again concrete itself. Then it will go to like concrete here. It will be like under concrete, I'm measuring footings. Okay. Measurement type, yes, I'm going to measure areas from the plan, but display I need in volume. Correct? You select volume. Just carefully watch what I'm doing, and then you can repeat. Okay. What I'm doing is basically I'll close this again. Dimension, add dimension group. Right? What I'm trying to measure now, I'm going to measure the concrete volume of F1 footing. Right? Fold I will keep as concrete. Measurement type is area because I can measure the area of the footing. And default display I want in volume because that is the measurement rule says, right? Concrete you have to measure in volume. Now, default width I'll leave it. Default height. Default height is this, isn't it? Default height is 500 because F1 footing is 500. This one is 500. Now you can see F1 is 500. F2 is 600, for example. F2 is 600. So accordingly, you have to create dimension groups because you can't use all the footings because they are in different thicknesses. So that's what I said. You cannot put all the footings in one group because they are in different heights. So here I'll say 0.5 because I'm measuring. Because it's in meters. So this is 0.5, 500 millimeter. So F1 thickness is, this thickness is 0.5, 500 millimeters. So I define 0.5. And if you want to keep your green color, you can keep it. Otherwise, you can change the color if you want. Right, let's say I normally don't use blue. I will tell you the reason. You can use blue, there's no problem with that, but I'll use this gold color for the moment. And I'm ready now. Okay, now you can see I'm moving into another dimension group called F1. And everything is blank now again. Right? Everything is blank again because I didn't, when I keep the cursor on this, you can see whatever I have measured will be highlighted. But now I'm in a different dimension group and I'm ready to measure a footing F1 concrete. Now you can see default unit is cubic meters because I have defined cubic meters. And default height is also 0.5. You can see tiny box appearing below. It says default height 0.5. You can double check always. Now we are ready to measure. Now let's say F1. So let us find F1. Right? Okay, these are the F1s. You can see these are the F1s. Okay. Now what I want, or if I want something, now you can see you have so many lines here, which is very sometimes very troublesome to measure. We have so many lines here. Okay, so you need to find out all the F1s and measure. Right, fine. And you have so many lines here. Now there's a tactic that you can use. There's something called, go to this one here. Go to drawings, right? This is nothing to do with the measurement, uh, but you can make your measurement faster. For example, if you go to layers here, while you are on the drawings tab here, while you are in the drawings tabs here, okay, first I'll go back one step. What I've done is I have created a dimension group called F1 because I'm going to measure concrete volume for F1 footing. right? F1 is properly mentioned here. There are few F1s. You can measure like what you did with the PCC. There's no problem with that, but I'm trying to show you some other functions now, right? There are so many lines here, so that will make our life difficult sometimes when you measure from a big drawing. So what you want to do is basically you want to remove certain unnecessary lines from here to make your measurement faster. So what you do is basically while you are in the dimension group, you can go to, or drawing group, you can go to layers, right? And then select this. Select this one here. Now what happens? Now what happens? That is disappeared, isn't it? That is disappeared. So I'll do it again. Okay. I'll do it again. Right. Now this is your original and this is where we were. Right. So you go to drawings. Okay. You are in the drawings tab and you go to layers. Right. So from this you can select the layers. That's okay. You can, if you don't want, you can unselect certain layers, but it will take time because you don't know which layer is which. Right. So what you do is you have something called invert function here. I'll keep all ticked for the moment. I'm going to do the other way around. There's something called invert function. Right? There's something called invert function here. How you can use invert? When you come to layer, your cursor will become, you can see here, orange color automatically. Excuse me. Right? When you move your cursor from drawings tab to layers tab, your cursor will become automatically orange. And now you can select the lines that you want to keep. You want to select the lines that you want to keep. You want to keep F1, right? Yeah. And also, okay, lettering, I'll come to that and say invert. Now you can see. Now you can see all the other lines are gone. Even the columns, the grid lines. The problem is now you don't know which one is F1, isn't it? You don't know which one is F1. Okay, then probably you can select from here, foundation identification. You can select and find out which one is F1. Now, your measurement would be very fast and also very clean because you can see F1. Otherwise, when you have everything, all the lines, difficult to find F1. Correct? And you can now you can measure it faster. Right, let's see F1. Okay, now quickly, now you go back. Now go to dimension because you are going to measure and drawings mode. You go back to drawings mode, dimension mode, and you have to keep your cursor here, of course, and you are ready to measure F1 now. How? Go to line mode or point mode. Let's say point mode for the moment, right? Just you have to select the internal line now because that is your F1 footing. Now you see 3 cubic meters. I just measured 1 and 3 cubic meters. And you see your cursor here and you get all the parameters. You know count is 1, of course. We have measured 1 footing. Length 10.4, height. Length is in this case, it's not the length of the foundation, it's a perimeter. Right? Area is 6.75. Wall area, I will explain what is wall area later. And the volume. Volume is 3.38. It's given as 3 cubic meter here, rounding off. You understand now. you can do it faster. Now go to next one and quickly measure. You can see how much easy now because you don't have all the other lines, right? You can disappear all the other lines and then you can measure what is important. Right? Can you now follow me? And let's see the answer for F1. Right, that is your F1. Basically, yeah, is there any F1 left? No, I think no. Yeah, we have measured F1. It's coming 17 cubic meters. And if you want to see the breakdown, as I said, you go back to this one and see the breakdown of F1 footings. What is important here is you need to give proper parameters. Default height, if you make this wrong, if instead of 0.5, if you type 0.7, then you will get a wrong quantity, obviously. Though you have measured the volume from CostX, the, the area will be multiplied by this 0.5 to give you the volume. So you need to make sure that you are giving the right parameters here. Right, so can you quickly do this? Can you measure F1 and get your answer as 17 cubic meters? And in the meantime, you can use the layers or invert function to disappear all the other layers, unnecessary layers, and keep only the important layers. Right, so Marcus has got 17 cubic meters, very good. But I want you to use this invert function as well here. Invert function is in the drawings tab. Remember, it is not the dimension tab here. It is in the drawings tab. Very good. Tosit has got it. So not very familiar with this invert function. I'll show you again. But Shirif got it. Good. So while you are here, right, you have to click this layers tab. And if you just want to see everything, you just put show all and you get everything. Right. And then you come to this layers. And now you select what you want to see. Let's say you want to see only the footings, all the other lines you don't need. So you click on that, right? And click on this, what do you call, if you want, click on label also. Here it's not selecting, right? Sometimes you can, if it's a different layer, you can select even the labels here. So let's say it's not selected. So what you do is you do from here and say invert. Invert is show only the selected ones. Right. Now you want to see the footing number. So you, okay, I can guess it could be here. That's why I click on this. So it comes back then. Now you know F1s. Select these F1s and measure now. That's what exactly I've done here. When you have this mod, it's easy. right? Anyone is struggling? Very good. Now we are slowly picking up some of the other functions, right? While we are measuring the areas. Right, Vitana has done, Manahan, Siva, right? Everyone has done good. Right, now can you quickly go to F2 then? Now you want to measure F2, right? You have just measured F1, right? How do you now measure F2? Now you have to create another dimension because F2 thickness is different from F1. F2 thickness is different from F, F1. So that is not 500, this is 600. So what do? It's like this now. F2 is, the thickness is higher than the F1. So your column height also will vary. Your stub column will vary. That's why we are measuring this way. So F2, you measure F2 now. Okay. There are two methods. One is again, like what you did, go to dimension and say add dimension. And then you give, let's say F2. And thickness is quite different here. Thickness is 0.6. And use whatever, avocado, whatever. Or you can keep all the same color for all the footings. It depends on you, right? Default display is not area. I need in volume. That is one method, right? Now you are ready to measure F2. Or that you have created a new one, like for the first time. Or you don't do that. Since you have already done F1, so I'll delete this, okay? So I'll delete what I have done. Delete this dimension group that I have created. Now what I would do, since I have done similar one, I'll make a copy. I'll make a copy. Copy dimension group. Okay, tell me the name. I'll say F2 now. Right? Folder concrete. Copy dimensions? No. I don't want copy dimensions because there are the dimensions are from F1. Now I don't want any quantity here. I want only the blank structure. So I'll say okay. So I don't keep the tick here. Right? I have to untick here and say okay. Now you can see again. Now you double click. But we have to change here, remember, because I have taken a copy from F1. So thickness is 0.5. Now thickness is 0.6. So make sure that you change it. Everything else is same. So it is easier. Now you can change the colors if you want because it's F2. Now you are ready. Update. Right. Make a copy and say, do you like to apply the new height to all dimensions that use it? Yes, new height to be applied for the F2. Yeah. So can you make a copy of this rather than making a new one? You know how to make a new one now already. Likewise, we have measure up to F9. Okay, 22 cubic meters. Let's see. F2. Yeah, correct. But I'll tell you, okay, another method, another quick method to measure F2 now. Right. Answer is 22 cubic meters. But I'll show you much faster method now to measure the area. For that, you need to have a closer object here. Now, this is closed internal line. But earlier internal line was not closed. Right. Now you take your mouse here because you know if where are these F2s are. This is F2, this is F2, this is F2. Let us quickly measure. I need you to follow. If you have done this, right, you delete all these things what you have done. Now you are going to use another method to measure the area other than the line and point. So line and point you have now measured, or you have used line and point method to measure the area. Now you are going to measure the area in one click, very easy. But for that, you need to remove all the other unnecessary lines using the invert function. Right, you are in the invert function anyway. You have removed all the other. If you want to go back to your original, you can say show all, correct? You can say show all, then you will be back to your normal drawing. But since you have used this layer function or invert function, now it will be much easier and faster to measure. Now you are going to measure area of F2. Now you keep your mouse here and enter shift. And keep your, it's not, I mean, keep your shift mouse, keep your shift key pressed. Now you see what happens. In one go, you measure the area. Right? I'll do it again. Control, okay, escape. Or control is it. Okay? Will work. Now again, you move your cursor. I didn't do anything, okay? Now I'm going to measure from the line or point method the area. Now I'm not going to measure in this way because it takes time. Now I'm going to measure the area in very quick. So we call it as shift and hold the shift key and mouse, shift and mouse. So keep your shift key pressed while your mouse is in the middle. Right, just click now and then enter. Oh, just mouse click, sorry, just mouse click. And you measure your area. And here, while your shift control or pressed, you bring your cursor here and click the mouse. You see how fast? And keep your mouse in the middle and press or hold your shift key and press enter. Oh, mouse key, okay? We are measuring basically F2. Press F2. That's all. Yeah, that's all, right? Yeah, that's all, F2. So the quantity is 22. If you want to go to the breakdown, you can see the breakdown of F2. Why I'm not selecting blue earlier? Because blue is normally when I click on this, you can see the color blue is appearing here to see the or to visualize the measured object. So I don't get confused with this blue and that blue. Right, while I'm creating dimension groups here, I don't normally use blue here because blue we can use for double checking. Right, so that is how you get 22 cubic meters. Right, now you can see how fast you can measure. So what was the function? So I'll do it again. Control Z. Okay, it won't work sometimes because when you have use certain other function afterwards, control Z or escape will not work, right? Then if you want to delete something, you have to delete the other same way. You have to keep your cursor here, right click, and say delete dimension, delete selected dimension. I'm going to delete it and I'll show you again how to measure this F2. So keep your mouse cursor here in the middle and press shift and then click on the mouse. Done. You can't measure the outer line that way, then you have to remove this internal line. That's why I didn't use that this function for the measurement of the area earlier for the PCC, because PCC is the outer line. Then you have to remove this internal line if you want to measure the outer line. Right? The problem is these two layers are on the same layer, or two lines are on the same layer. So you can't avoid the internal layer. So that is why. Otherwise, you could have measured the same way the PCC also. Right. Now, can we measure F3 quickly while you are here? So what you do is basically you can take a copy of this now. Again, take a copy and make it as F3 now. Right. And you don't copy the dimensions and say, okay, now you have to remember, now you have to change the dimension, the thickness here. So let us check the F3 thickness here now. F3 thickness is 700 here, correct? F3 is 700. So go back and change to 700. You can change the colors, of course, if you want. And everything else is same because area, default displays volume, right? And say update. Yeah, you have to apply all this new height. Okay. Now we are measuring F3. Let's measure F3 now. Where are F3? Here we have one. So easy. You move your mouse in the middle of F3 and press shift and keep pressing shift and then mouse click. Where's F3? F3, F3. Here we have one. Right. Same. It's very fast, huh? Yeah, that's it. F3, 39. Just check everything has been captured. Yeah. F3. Yeah, 39. Everyone is getting 39. Drop a message.
చెప్పి తినకుండా ఆడికి వెళ్ళవాకు. క్లోజ్ డేట్ ఎంత? ఏం చేస్తావు?
Your audio not working, sir. We are not able to hear you.
I'm sorry. Right. Now F6 again, easy. Right, move your mouse here and keep pressing Shift and click F6. Is there any other F6 here? Yeah, other side. Shift to make sure you have selected the internal box, okay, and then mouse click. F6 is done. F6 should be 100, and we have F7 now. We'll take a copy, make it as F7. And make thicknesses, F7 thickness is 700. 700. And if you want to change the color, you can do it here itself. Double click and change the color to avocado or something. Right. F7. Just F7. Okay. Interesting. F7 is not here. It was there, but F7 is not there. Right. And there was an F8 also, right? In the schedule. Yeah. Now, those lines are not on the same layers. That's why you don't see F7 and F8. Now I will click show all. Now F7. And you have F8. Correct? Now, what I will do is I will again invert. Go to layers and say invert. And now you can see this is F7. You can see this the grid line F7 is marked in a different layer. That's why you can't see the label. Anyway, we know this is F. Now from here we know this is F7. The problem is when you have these so many grid lines in the middle, you can't use this shift key to get the area. So that's why you avoid these internal lines. Right. So, and say invert, and this is F7. Okay. Correct. Yeah, this is F7. Right. So you measure. Keep your F7 here. Keep your mouse. Click. Right. And that is your F7. And this is your F8. And make a copy of this. So F7 is 59. Make a copy of this and make it F8 now. Right. And change the thickness because you have to be very careful. F8 700. Okay, correct. F8 700. And if you want to change the line or whatever, right, this is it, and shift and mouse and click. Right, that is 63 cubic meters. Right, I hope you have got all the quantities now. So, but beauty is you can avoid all the unnecessary line when you measure certain element. Right, so using the invert function, that is very, very important function here. So that's why we can use that special shortcut, shift and mouse to measure the area. Right, you bring your mouse inside and then press shift, you get the area selected. That is very important functions. For that, you need to avoid all the unnecessary lines. Now we are back to normal, right? Now, if you want to make sure that you have measured everything, so what do you do? One is you can see from here. If you want to see F1, then you know all the dimensions here, right? You can just click on this, you will see the breakdown. Okay, fine. That is one by one you can check. Let's say F1 whether you have measured, F2 whether you have measured. You go to dimensions and then expand this and see. Okay, this or this, or what you can do is you can select all together, right? You press shift key like you normally select Excel and down arrow, right? Shift and down arrow like you select all of them together and then you can see whether you have measured all F3. Or of course you can keep your mouse here, then you can see all the F1, F2, F3, X4 and F1, F6 and everything. But what you need to do is basically you have to see whether all the footings have been measured. Now you can see all the colors are appearing here and I have select all the dimension groups at once and you now understand, okay, I have measured everything. I have not left out anything. So that is the most important part here. But by the way, this is a manual. Yes, we are using AutoCAD for 2D measurements. Remember, it is not automated 100% like 3D measurements. Now make sure that you get this view. For that, you need to measure all the footings. You can give different colors. Okay, after F3, you didn't hear the sound. Okay, no problem. F3, okay, when you measure F4, same thing, right? You check the thickness of F4. F4 is 500. So you create a dimension group called F4 by making a copy of F3, copy dimension group, and make it let's F4 here, and OK, and then come to F4 and change the thickness here, 2.5. And if you want, you change the color also and say update. Then go to F4. Now you have problems because you have so many lines here, right? So let us get rid of those lines. How? Layers, right? Sorry. You select the foundation layer here and say invert. You get only the foundation now, but then you have to turn on this identification. Then only you will know foundation layers, right? F4 if you have to measure now. That's F4. Yeah, it's a small one. Yes. Now you have to go back to drawing and keep your mouse here, right? And then shift key and click. Same way, you measure all the other F4 to F8. I'll give you some time, don't worry. So can you make sure that you measure everything? And then when you select all of them, you can see everything has been measured.
Hi, sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. Baron?
Yes, sir. I'm the one who couldn't get that sound.
Okay.
Now I log into another PC. Maybe issues in my lap. When I'm getting that measurement in the second method, I didn't get the measurements. Sir.
Okay, let me do it one more time. Okay. Second method is shift key, right?
Shift key, yeah.
Okay. Now I'll delete this. Okay. I'll delete. I'll do it again. So I'll delete this one. Okay. I'm going to measure F8 now. Okay. F8. Which is this one. Okay. For that, I'll select only F8. For that, what you need to do is you have to select the layer, go to layer and select this and say invert. And you will only get F8 here. Right. Now you go back to this dimension, drawings tab. Now you are on F8. Right. You are going to introduce F8. So what you do is you take a copy of F7 and make it as F8. So copy dimension group and make it as F8 now. And say OK. But then we have to change the thickness. F8 thickness is 700. So I'll change this F8 as, okay, that is 700 anyway. And I say update. Now you are going to measure the area of this. Thickness is given, so it will give you the volume without any trouble. So F8, how? You keep your mouse in the middle and press enter. Keep it. It's not just one press, okay? You have to hold the shift key and then mouse click. You click the mouse. Now you can see the internal area is selected. Can you try?
That one is okay for me, sir. Can you try that F1 bottom left-hand side one? F4.
F4. Okay. Yeah, I'll F4.
Bottom left-hand side ones.
This one here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not closed. I know why I know why you're asking this. Okay, I'll again go to layers and remove unnecessary lines. First, go to layers and select what you want and then invert. Okay, this is F4. Okay, and I'll turn on the identification also, otherwise you don't know. Right, now you go back to F4. Let's say I delete this. Okay, otherwise it will be, and I'll make a new F4. Take a copy from F3 and make it as F4. Right, and then I'll make the thickness. F4 thickness is how much? 500. So I'll make it as 500. Now I'm ready. Right, I'm ready. Now I'm going to measure F4 because the problem is F4 is not closed. Right, now I'll keep my mouse and hold the shift key. Now you can see the problem. It gives a different area. So I'll move my mouse little bit here and there until I select the proper area. You understand? When I take my mouse to this corner, I'll get the right area. So I'll click the mouse. Right. I'll take another one, F1, F4 on the other side also. F4 was there, right? Same. So I'll keep my mouse here and hold the shift key. Again, it gives a different area. But I'll move my mouse a little bit here and there until I get my proper area. You can see when I keep my mouse somewhere here, it's a different one. You can see, but I'll drag my mouse a little bit here. It will come to my area and click the mouse.
Yeah, okay, sir, it's fine now.
Okay. So you need to, like, it's a practice. It's just a practice. So it is, or in other words, just to conclude on that function, you can use shift key with mouse to measure the area other than the line and point mode. But the problem is for that you need to have a kind of a closed area if that is to be working. But the problem is you can use for some unclosed area like this, but then you have to move your mouse a little bit here and there to get or select your proper area because the object is not closed. I hope everyone has got it.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Right, most welcome. Good, so everyone, very good. Right, I'm going to show you something else now. So since everyone has measured, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to get into this position now. So I'll select everything. It will look like a small art type of thing here. Right, if you even use show all, you will get this. But you know, then you have selected everything and you have not left behind any footing unmeasured. So you have given different colors, so not necessarily. You will see why I'm saying this. You can go for the same color if you want, all the footings. You can change the color by just double clicking if you want, right? You can go back to green if you want, all of them. Then you have to do one by one. Right. Now I just wanted to show you something. How do you see? Yeah, shift key, mouse click. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, method. Yeah, method 2 is shift key. Yeah, you have to hold the shift key plus mouse. You have to keep your mouse in the middle of the object and then hold the shift key. Then once the area is selected, you have to click. Now it is not, yeah, it is only for AutoCAD. Yes, it is only for AutoCAD. I will show you what happens in PDF. Don't worry. When we measure PDF drawing, I will show you that function, and it's not working for PDF. This method is only possible in AutoCAD drawings. PDF, this doesn't work. Shift plus mouse area cannot be taken from that function. I will show you when we measure from PDF drawing. Right, now we have measured everything. I just want to show you something. Now click on this because we want to see the 3D view of what we have measured. Now you can see the 3D view of what you have measured if you want to make sure that you have captured everything, right? You are in the drawings, remember, drawings tab, not the dimensions. Dimensions, you don't have anything like that, okay? You don't have anything like that. Now in the dimensions, you can see here small tick all measured. And if you click on that, that will be unselected. If you want to see the measured one, you can check on this or click on this and you can see what has been measured here. So normally by default, it has been clicked. Right. So that's why you see all these things. How to unselect selected segments. Okay. What do you mean by unselect? So if just to see when you select on any of these dimensions group, it will appear here, right? If you don't want anything, you just click on this standard one, right? Standard one, you can keep your cursor here, then you don't see anything here. Otherwise, if you are on a particular dimension groups that you have measured, it will be always appearing here, depending on what you want to see while you are in the dimensions mode. Right, drawings mode also same. If you want to unselect, you click on this standard button. You are back to kind of a default view. Right now, you have to be in the dimension view. Sorry, drawings view. If you want to see a 3D view of what we have measured. For that, you cannot be here. Now you have to select. Let's say if you want to see PCC only, you can see the PCC. 3D view of the PCC because I have selected the PCC. I want to select everything that has been measured under the concrete folder, including the footings. So that is where you need to be very smart when you select the folder structure also. Right. Now, if you want to select the entire concrete, now you can see the entire PCC plus the concrete footings that we have measured in a 3D view. Right, when I measure the columns, you will see the balance. So I have measured up to this point at the moment. But only thing is we have a small issue here. I'll show you why. This PCC and the footings are starting from the same position at the moment. So it is, if you really see the 3D here, you can't see because of this, because of two colors, right? If you have the same color, you will see, or if you measure this distance, you will see only this measure. If you measure only this distance, you will see this length has been measured from the bottom like this. This is the default position of CostX. The reference point is always a reference point, and the height, everything will be taken from that reference point. Now, if you want to make a proper 3D view, right, you have to shift this column footing on top of this PCC, isn't it? On top of this PCC, if you want to get a proper 3D view. Now, what you see is not a proper 3D view, because if you see, I don't know whether you can see that. Yeah, this footing at the moment, this footing, the bottom of the footing is also on the bottom of the PCC. So that is the default position of CostX when you make the 3D. Everything will be measured from a reference point. Now, if you want to keep your footings on top of the PCC in a proper, if you want to produce a proper 3D of what you have measured, there's something called offset. There's something called offset. Now, for example, if you PCC is fine because anyway that is from the bottom of the reference point. Right now, if you take F1, okay, these are the F1s. So okay. Now F1, you can see F1 bottom is also bottom of the PCC. In other words, this. Now, what you want to do is you want to move your footing on top of the PCC if you want to see a proper 3D. So there's a function called offset here. So you go to F1, double click here. Can you follow me? You go to F1 and double click, and then there's something called default offset here. You can see here, default offset. So I have to make it as 0.1 because I need to keep my footing on top of the PCC. You could have done this one at the very beginning, but I didn't want to confuse you. First, you need to understand how the measurement will work, and then you can create your 3D view of what you have measured. So default offset, you have to offset the foundation by 100 millimeter. You have to move 100 millimeter up, in other words. So for that, you have to give a default offset as 0.1 and see what happens. Okay, see what happens when you give a default offset 0.1 and update and say apply. Now you see it came up. It came up. Now this footing is on top of PCC. Now what you can do is you select this F1 and control, you select this one also, PCC. Now you see it is properly on top of the PCC. So that is called offset. I mean, measurement quantities are the same. Now you are trying to create a 3D view, okay? Nothing else. I'm not saying quantities are wrong because I have not given the offset. And this is not necessarily the case. Sometimes you don't need the 3D. If you are a good QS, you don't need the 3D to understand what you have measured is correct. But it's always better to have a 3D view of what you have measured. So you have to give all like footings offset 100 millimeter. Correct? Offset 100 millimeter so that all the footings will be on top of the PCC. You can do one by one. Double click and change the offset to 0.1 and update, and it will be asking you whether it has to be applied to all the elements. I said yes. Now you can see it's coming up. Okay. Now you can select everything together, like you select everything and then right click and change offset, right? All of them together and let's say 0.1. Correct? Update dimension that the default offset. So update dimension that use the default offset. Okay. Now you can see what happens. So the default offset 0.1 here, default offset 0.1. So I moved 100 millimeter up the footings. And now see the 3D view of everything. If you want to see everything, you can, one thing is, of course, you can select everything and see. Sorry. You can select everything and see 3D, or you can select the entire concrete folder, same thing, and see the 3D view. Nice, right? Very nice. Now you can see you have measured everything, and if you have, now you can see the colors. So that is the importance of giving colors if you want, or otherwise you can give a single color to all the footings, single color to all the PCC, right? Let us change the color and see for the PCC, let's say slate, and now see, now you see the color difference. This is the PCC and this is the footing on top of the PCC. Very nice. Here there's something called solid, right? Or sometimes you can have different no fill or whatever. You can try those out, like if you want diamonds or something, you can do that. Right. So that is what you can create a nice 3D view of what you have measured after measuring, and then you can double check whether you have done the right thing, right, by by visualizing from the 3D. Right. If you want to select everything, you select the entire folder. Right. Can you generate this view by changing the offset of everything? I mean footings, okay, F1 to F8 by 100 millimeter up. How do you do that? You have to change the default offset by 100 so that all the footings moved up by 100 millimeter. If you have 50 millimeter, what do you call PCC, then you have to select the footings on the 50 millimeter. So change the offset to 50 millimeter there. But in this case, all the PCC are 100 millimeter. So that's why we have to use the offset by 100 millimeter. So it depends on the details given in your appropriate for project. Right. Are we done? You have to practice. If you want to see only F1, you can see F1 with PCC, you can see. Right? F1 with everything, or F2, F3, F4. You just press the control key and click like what you do in Excel to select item. Same way. If you want to see F1 and F6, you just select F1 and control F7 or F5 or F3. You can select that. And then if you want to see PCC also, you can select whatever you want to select randomly with control key, like you do in Excel. Right. Now we have to measure the tie beams. Right. Everyone is comfortable with this? Just drop me a message when you are done. Good. So it's not magic. We have something called, while you are in the drawings tab, you have something called view 3D, view in 3D, what you have measured. Then you select the item that you want to see. But now we have learned something that we have to offset. We have to define an offset so that you see a proper dimension, proper 3D view of what you have measured. I didn't introduce at the time of measuring because there's no point at that time. Now you know there's something called offset if you want to create a proper 3D view of what you have measured. Because everything will be measured based on a reference point as far as CostX is concerned. I'll give you 1 more minute. Marcus is fine. Malinder. How about other guys? Very good. Dushan. It's nice to see everyone is catching up. It's a matter of practicing, and also it's a matter of planning, based on your own drawing. You will be not measuring the same drawing again and again. It depends on the level of details that you have in your drawings in your project. So plan your you will have sometimes rough foundation. So it will be easier in that case, and there will be different thicknesses, right? So you can plan your dimension groups then accordingly. So I'll be giving you the basics, so you have to apply to your situation. Right, so I'll be moving on. So let us measure the tie beam now. There's a tie beam, right? So I'll move away from this view 3D. So you just click on this and you are back to normal, right? And you don't have to select any of this. You just click on this standard. And if you are in drawing view, right, you are here. Right now, you are going to measure the tie beams. This tie beam, okay? Right. If you want to measure something, you know what you need to do. You have to create a dimension group quickly. We have to measure a dimension group. Right. One is, okay, let's take a look at the detail. The tie beam is here. This is your tie beam. Okay, tie beam section is like this. You can see here the shaded area. Tie beam is at the bottom of the foundation, and size of the tie beam is was given here. Yeah, size of the tie beam is 300 width, and the thickness is the height is 500. We all know if it is a proper beam, thickness should be lesser than the height. So in other words, height beam, the higher dimension would be the height if it is a proper beam. In other words, height is always higher than the thickness of a beam. Most of the cases, okay, it's not always 100% correct because there will be slightly different version of a beam. But normally, height is more than the thickness of a beam. So 300 is the width, 500 is the thickness. So tie beam. So if I give you a perfect perception of how the tie beam will be here, you can see this part is tie beam. This part is tie beam. And it is, let's say, sitting on top of the PCC. There's no PCC. Just to make it simple, I will assume that there's no PCC underneath the top beam because we have already learned how to measure the PCC. I don't want to measure another PCC on top of the TB on at the bottom of the tie beam, right? So in your project, you will have a PCC for the tie beam as well. Then it is a matter of you can measuring, right, area. And wherever you have duplication, you need to avoid those duplications. That's all. Now, for the purpose of this, I will assume that there's no PCC underneath the tie beam, and tie beam is 0.5 into 0.3. So that is what we are going to measure. Okay. Now, quickly measure tie beam, and probably we can stop from there. I will let you enjoy Eid holidays. Right. So I'll create another dimension group called tie beam. Okay. So for that dimension add dimension, I'll go from the beginning because I'll not make a copy of this because those parameters will not be matching now. That's why. So name is tie beam. I say tie beam can be measured in two different ways. I will show you two different methods. May not be today, but one is, of course, tie beam area. I will show you why. Right. I'll name it as tie beam area, measured on area. That's why. Folder, not standard. Folder, again, concrete. Measurement type. Okay, I'm going to measure the area of the tie beam. Default display I want in volume, we all know. And the default height. Now, if you know the area, if you measure the area, if you measure the area, what you are measuring is the top part, right? What you need is the height. what you need is the height. If you are measuring the area of the tie beam, it will catch up area into width, sorry, length into width, isn't it, on the plan? So what you see here is on the plan, right? You can see tie beam, right? Length into width. So what is missing is thickness. So you have to define the thickness here. That means the height. Height is 0.5. Height is 500. Now default offset I will come back and later I will change. Okay, there also I can give 100 millimeter now because we know already it is 100 millimeter up. So that also can be defined right now. Now I will say okay. But take a copy of this now. Tie beam area. Can you also create this one? Tie beam. While I'll keep this one on my screen. Tie beam, I will say area. I will measure tie beam in different ways. That's why one is area method. Okay, I'll put as area method. Make it simple. Tie beam area method. Then you have to define the height, right? Because height is 0.5, width is 0.3. So width is captured here because we are going to measure the area. And default display is volume. And default height is 0.5. Offset we know now. It is 0.1 because we know now. Because the bottom of the tie beam is sitting on top of the PCC. Let's assume. Okay. Bottom of the piece tie beam is on top of the PCC. So you have to lift up by 100 millimeter. That's why I put 100 millimeter here. And say okay. Right, now you see tie beam area method. Now what you need to do is you have to see the tie beams and measure. Right, you have to measure all the tie beams area. Again, you know, when you have so many lines, difficult. So you'll keep all the tie beams only. For that, what you need to do is basically, okay, go to drawings, use the invert function, layers, right? When you say layers, your mouse will be turned into a different color. So you click on that. And say invert. Now you see now tie beams, okay? And probably use identification. Anyway, these junctions are all tie beams, right? Here we have a small issue because we don't have F7. We need to find F7 here. So I'll go back. So I'll select tie beam and F7 both. And then invert. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to select this one and this one. And tie beams also. And then invert. Now you see, it's a matter of practicing. Then you can see this invert function how it will work. So you see only the tie beams here. Okay, can you get into this view first of all before we measure? And then it's a very easy thing to measure the tie beams, right? You can use even that function. We are measuring is basically here, right? From internal to internal, right? On top of the PCC, the tie beam. So that means from here to here, okay? Now you go back, you can measure from here to here. You can use line mode, I think point mode to measure the tie beams very quickly. So can you generate this view first of all and then quickly measure tie beam and finish it off for today? Right, I'll start from one direction, from one area. Right, I'll use point mode because I may not be able to use that shift and mouse because of this issue. I have to get outer thing. It's very, very difficult to get that, you can see. So I have no option but to use this. It all depends on your drawing. If your drawing has the proper layers, especially AutoCAD, then your life will be easier. Otherwise, you have to do it sometimes manually. The good thing here is you can see what you have measured. Right, this side is over now. Move into this side now. Because the tie beams have not properly drawn in layers, so we have to do it manually and it takes little time. Can't help. You can use Shift key and mouse if you had a close object, right? Now, since we have internal lines, inside lines, you can't use that. Only few. Please follow me now. You create a dimension group called tie beam. I think you have already created now. Now you can start measuring. And let's see how much is the volume. I think I have pretty much covered everything. Anything I have missed out? No, I think everything has been taken into account now. Right, 9 cubic meters is the answer. And beauty here is, if you want to see now whether how it will look like, you can go to this. That is the important part, you know. That is I like with CostX. And these are the tie beam. And if you want to see everything together now, you see how the tie beam is sitting on top of the PCC because we have given the default offset of 100 millimeter at the very first place. All the tie beams are shown in green, and you can see that is 100 millimeter above. And we have pretty much covered all the tie beams. Yes, if you see from the top, you can see this is top view. There's a question from someone. We can't direct area quantity from by layer without selecting. No, there's no way method like that. If the drawings are drawn in that way, probably you will see the tie beams on a particular layer, then you can select. I mean, when you use the invert function, you could have done it very quickly with shift and mouse area. As the user, you need to show the boundary of the tie beam. The CostX doesn't know. So that's why we have to measure the area. And the default thickness has been given as 0.5. So you get the volume when you measure the area. Interesting. Right, you can do whatever you want to zoom area, all this will work, okay? And reset. So those functions will work as it is. And you can make sure now, you can 100% make sure that you have measured everything and the breakdown is here. Go to the dimensions and you can see the breakdown. You can see the blue line, blue color. When I select from here, you can see the corresponding element in the 3D. You can do it on the 2D also, right? You can see here. And you can select everything together. Control A. We all know, I mean, those are normal functions. So otherwise, just use the arrow key. Right, guys. Have you come to this? So we'll stop here. We have a small issue for the next week in 19. It has to be 9. Quantity is 9 cubic meters. Nine. Just double check your parameters is correct. Default height is 0.5. Default display is volume, and you have measured the area. When you measure the area, remember you have to measure internal line to the internal line, because the beam start from the foundation, not from the edge of the PCC. That means if I show you on here, right, your beam start from here and here, not from inside to inside, not from the blue lines. Right, corrected. Okay, good, Tosika. Maybe duplicated, yeah. Good. Very good. Right, so there's another method you can measure. Okay, now if you have different tie beams, okay, for me, this is easy because you have only one type of tie beam, but practically it is not the case, right? You will have different sizes of tie beam. Then what should be the case? Like what you measured here as footings. You have different sizes, therefore you had a different dimension group for footings. So similarly, you have TB1, TB2, TB3, TB4. So likewise you have to define each TB, the dimensions, because sometimes 0.5 thickness, sometimes 0.75, sometimes uh, 0.4 or whatever. So depending on the size of the tie beams, you have to define the dimension groups again. So I was able to do it in one go here because all the tie beams are on the same size. So that's why I was able to measure all the tie beams in one dimension group. Otherwise, you have TB1, a particular volume, TB2, particular volume, because the sizes are different. Right? So that is what normally happens in practical situation. But in this case, I have simplified it by taking tie beams as a single size. And that is the case here in this particular drawing. Okay, so I'll stop here. You have any question before I wind up? And then we'll continue to measure the what do you call, the stubby column. And then we didn't measure any, what do you call, bitumen or any foam work, right? You don't have to measure them actually. You need to take certain relationships of of the measured quantities to arrive or to derive those quantities. So I will teach you how to do that without measuring all these parameters. You need to measure certain main elements. So all the other parameters you can obviously derive when we prepare the BOQ. So that is the beauty of this. So we have measured the PCC, we have measured all the footings, we have measured tie beam now. right? And we have seen or we have generated the 3D view, and there we learn something called offset, right? So that's what we've learned, and then we learn how to make a copy of the dimension groups and change in the colors and properties and so on. Right, so we have come to a kind of a understanding now how the 2D drawing will work. Right, so next week I'll be measuring the columns, and then we'll be preparing the BOQ from whatever we have measured. Right, in the process, we will work out the form work, the bituminous paint, even the reinforcement later, right, and the excavation. So everything will be, everything can be derived from what we have measured already. Right, so very interesting. So since today is Eid holiday for some parts of the world, so I'll keep this as a short session. I hope others will also agree to that. And then next session, I have a small issue. I'm traveling to Oman Monday, and I'll be back on Okay, I'll be leaving Oman on Saturday night, meaning I won't be able to take up the session on Saturday. So how about doing it on Sunday when I returned? Are you guys okay to have the next session on Sunday 8:30? It should be okay only for that week, okay? Um, okay, very good. And just drop a message to the group, WhatsApp group, and if let's say majority of the people are fine with this, uh, and then we can go ahead, okay? So printed, okay, we'll keep it for next Sunday 8:30, uh, and then we'll get back to Saturdays when I returned. I hope it's okay. Good. So thank you very much again. And if you don't have any questions, I'll see you next Sunday to continue from here. Right? It seems everyone has got it. The work that we have done up to date. Very good. Thank you guys. Take care and enjoy the rest of the day. Okay. Right. Thank you. I'll see you next week, Sunday. Good night to all of you.